Welcome guys, this is Ola from Stop Me O channel. Today we're discussing The Last of Us 2 predictions. We're mostly going to focus on Joel, Dina and Ellie's mother. So three most important figures when it comes to the second part, the sequel. Very much anticipated sequel. I think the internet will explode when the game is finally out. Now if you missed my reaction to the trailer, do check it out before watching that video. I was discussing some predictions there as well, but we're mostly going to focus on specific or more specific stuff in that very video. At this point, having watched 3 trailers / gameplays that they already provided, it's safe to say what they're hinting at. They're basically trying to indicate that what's going to happen in the second part is Dina getting kidnapped / killed and then Ellie going after revenge with Joel by her side. Now is that the case? Maybe, but maybe they're just trying to mislead us. While reacting to the trailer, I was practically certain that this is the case, that Dina actually dies, but as many of you pointed out, we don't actually see the moment that she's killed. Let's go back to the roots. We know that Ellie and Dina had a thing. A lot of people were pissed off, a lot of people claim that they're trying to force the gay agenda or whatever, but I never considered it pointless. It was a relationship, it's something that they decided to show us, and now we know that it actually had purpose. So Ellie going after revenge, Ellie wearing her bracelet, so Dina's bracelet, which means that Dina was either kidnapped or killed. The trailer strongly suggested that she was actually killed. Ellie and Dina left the camp in Jackson, that nice little wholesome city where both Joel and Ellie live. They left the camp and they went out. Then they were attacked. Perhaps the people that attacked them knew where they would be. Maybe it was Dina herself who sold Ellie out. Maybe she was just trying to use her. Maybe she was just trying to get close to Ellie and for whatever reason deliver her to the people that attacked us. Maybe it was someone else. Maybe that other dude, Dina's ex. We don't know yet. I'd like to think that Dina wasn't betraying us because I would prefer to have a faithful companion for Ellie. But we can't be sure at this point. We don't know what happened to Dina. Maybe they killed her right in front of our eyes.
Please stop! No!
Some of you claim that perhaps we found out that Dina betrayed us and that's why we yelled that way, but I think that scream, Ellie's scream, was so desperate and filled with despair. I doubt it was because Dina betrayed us. I think it would take more for Ellie to scream that way. Others claimed that perhaps Dina was raped because Neil Druckmann stated that this game will be much darker than the previous one. Now, agreed, I think it will be much darker. I think you can already see that based on the gameplay that were delivered, based on the trailer itself. But is it going to be as dark as raping Dina or Ellie? I don't think so. I think that's going too far, especially given the fact that Neil Druckmann is a feminist, sort of. I don't think he would ever do that to Ellie, nor Dina. That would be too much, that would be cruel. Very cruel, in fact, perhaps too dark. So while I think it will be brutal, I doubt it will be that violent. I'm gonna assume there are 2 solutions. Either they murdered Dina right in front of our eyes, or they didn't actually shoot Dina because we didn't see the exact moment when she died. They shot someone else and kidnapped Dina. That's why Ellie's after them. Let's not forget that killing Dina would ultimately mean that they're killing off yet another gay character in the game. They already killed off Riley in the Left Behind DLC, and while it was crucial when it comes to the game's plot, it was very important because then we had that final conversation that Ellie had with Joel when she admitted that she's still waiting for her turn to turn. Such a pun. So are they really going to kill off another gay character? Are they trying to sort of stick to the narrative that everyone that Ellie loves either leaves or dies? I hope not, because it would ultimately mean that Joel might die as well. Now Joel, is he dead or is he alive? I actually am convinced that he's alive. I wouldn't go as far as stating that he's some sort of a ghost or like a product of imagination that's following Ellie around and like giving her good advice, pretty much Star Wars type, like Obi-Wan Kenobi type of a deal. No, he's alive. First of all, it was already mentioned in the Jackson camp.
Your old man really laid into me today.
What happened?
he mentioned Joe. Now, second of all, if you're still not convinced, if you pause the trailer, the latest trailer, at the right moment, you can actually see that it is Joe grabbing Ellie from behind. Some people claim that Ellie is outside, whereas he was clearly on the inside. If you have a look, there are pillars right over there. So it makes sense that there would be like a outside environment in front of Ellie and house type of an environment right behind Joe. I think Joe will either help us to get Dina back, assuming that she's alive, or he will help us avenge Dina, assuming that she's dead. And while doing so, I think he will teach us an important lesson on how to move on and how to let go. We know that Joe went through such a big loss, especially as a father, because he lost his daughter Sarah, and during various occasions he was very close to losing Ellie again as well. Having Joe around makes so much sense because he will help us process the loss that we've encountered. He will be there for us. He will offer both his advice and his gun. Now the question is, will Joel survive part 2? That is a good question, and I'm sort of worried. I'm actually worried because it would make sense for him to die in that part. Although, again, it's pretty much expected, so at the same time, I don't think they're gonna go for obvious routes. I'm not even certain that everything that they've suggested will actually happen. They might just be misleading us, like I said. Neil Druckmann likes misleading people. But why I think that Joel might not survive? Because of that final decision that he made by the end of The Last of Us. By the end of The Last of Us, Joel pretty much single-handedly sentenced the entire human race to extinction. And while he had a good reason for it, I think it's something that will come back to us at certain point in part 2. Whether he will actually pay for the consequences of his action, or he will discuss that with Ellie. Now, I always sort of assumed that Ellie knew that he was lying, and that she knew that that lie came from a good place, so she sort of accepted it. Perhaps she even preferred to believe so, rather than believe that she could have saved everyone, but it was taken away from her. I'd like to believe that Joe at certain point will be playable, but I will record a separate video about the gameplay because they've posted like a 7 minutes gameplay, lots to talk about as well, so stay tuned for that video. Now that we've discussed Ellie's father, we're gonna discuss Ellie's mother. Now remember that gameplay / trailer that they posted in Paris 2 years ago? Ever since that trailer was out, people seem to believe that it was actually Ellie's mother that was about to get hanged right in there. She does look like Ellie, if you have a look at that screenshot. But then again, is it not too obvious? We know that the code that was presented here and there, called Seraphites, will play an important role. We will be after them. But when did they even start to exist? Because it just seems like they weren't ever mentioned in the first game. Perhaps they actually started existing after the events of The Last of Us. Or maybe they existed before the events of The Last of Us. Maybe it all started right after the outbreak, and they weren't even mentioned because they were elsewhere. Let's assume that it was actually Ellie's mother. That would mean that she was part of the Seraphites cult. The very same cult that possibly murdered Dina. Now, wouldn't that cause a moral dilemma for Ellie? We know that the second part will also focus on Ellie's mother. It's not just about revenge. It's not just about Ellie going after Dina's possible murderers. Ellie's mother will play a part in all of that. Now, what better role than actually being part of that cult? Ellie finding out that her mother was part of an organization that led to Dina's death. I'm sure that would be a big trigger. Was Anna already pregnant in that trailer? It just seems like they were sort of suggesting that she is, and that they want to sort of kill that child with that knife. Perhaps they had like a prophecy that whoever will be born will do something that they don't want to be done. Perhaps this is why they're still after Ellie these days. Perhaps this is why someone tricked Ellie into going out of the camp and led her to a certain place where Seraphites were already waiting for her. I don't know, I don't want to go too far with my theories, but if that was actually Ellie's mother, then it means that her conflict with Seraphites reaches further in the past than she assumed. Assuming that the code developed after the events of the first game, what was the point of showing us that whole situation with the Seraphites? Maybe these people will help us? This is something that one of my patrons told me, David. He thinks that this is actually happening after the events of The Last of Us, and that we were introduced to these people because they will actually help us out when it comes to defeating holding the Seraphites? There's so many possibilities here, so many theories. One of the theories claims that Ellie is actually pregnant because she's holding that guitar covering her belly. Joe taught her how to play a guitar. It makes every sense that she would be playing a guitar in the trailer and playing that awesome song that she did. I don't think she's pregnant, and that would piss off a lot of people because Ellie is gay and she was gay in the first game. Many people sort of missed that. Just play the Left Behind DLC. Speaking of which, I got strong Left Behind vibes from the gameplay that they presented. 7 minutes of gameplay. But like I said, I'm gonna discuss that in a separate video. Neil Druckmann might be misleading us. Maybe Dina will not die. I think Joe is alive based on that screenshot that I already showed you. But maybe this game is not what we think it is. So let's sort of question everything that they're showing us, but without going too far. I'm not a fan of theories that reach out way too far, and I think that usually the simplest solutions work. Let me know what you think about all of that. There's so many theories, there's so much space for speculation and discussion. I'm gonna make more Last of Us videos. I'm gonna focus on that until the game is out. Please remember to subscribe, like that video helps a lot. Check out my social media links down below. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, guys. This was Ola from Stop Me O channel. Bye.